All right, let's just dive right into this explainer. Today, we're taking a step-by-step look at the absolute hardest problems in your Unit 1 Number Systems and Digital Logic syllabus. Now, if you've already got the basics down, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to skip the basic definitions and head straight to the whiteboard.
So our target today is locking down these core computer architecture outcomes. We're talking number system conversions, binary arithmetic, complements, and logic map simplifications, so that by the end of this, you can literally solve these on autopilot.
Here's our roadmap for this explainer. First up, our base conversions masterclass. Then, complement subtraction tricks, BCD addition correction, Hamming code error correction, and finally, universal gates and K-maps.
All right, let's hit Section 1, Base Conversions Masterclass. We'll be tackling both whole and fractional base conversions.
You know, the most common pitfall I see when converting bases is just mixing up how to read the results. It happens all the time. When you're converting a decimal integer, you divide by the base and read the repeated division remainders from bottom to top. But when you get a decimal fraction, like 0.625, the math totally flips. You use repeated multiplication by the base, and you read those resulting whole number bits from top to bottom. It's a simple distinction, but honestly, reversing these is the #1 way people lose points.
Now look at how mapping the repeated division of decimal 17.3 side by side reveals an amazing cheat code. By dividing by 2, we get our binary string 10101101 reading bottom to top. Divide by 8, you get your octal 255. Divide by 16, and you get your hexadecimal AD. And here's the cool part, if you group that binary answer into 4-bit nibbles, so 1010 and 1101, they perfectly translate to A and D in hex. They are all the exact same value, just spoken in different digital languages.
Moving right along to Section 2, Complement Subtraction Tricks, Navigating Negative Results in 2's Complement.
So, building on that arithmetic, we all know how to add, right? But what happens if you subtract a larger number from a smaller one, say 45 minus 60? When you're restricted to raw binary hardware, how does the computer actually know the result is a -15, especially since an arithmetic logic unit literally only uses addition circuits?
Well, this is where the magic of 2's complement steps in. By following these 4 steps, we magically turn a subtraction problem into an addition problem. First, find the 2's complement of the larger number, 60, by inverting all its bits and adding 1. Then, you just add that result directly to our binary 45. Now pay close attention to step 3. When you add them, you'll notice there is no carry out of the most significant bit. The absence of that carry bit is the system's way of screaming at you that the answer is negative. To actually read the true magnitude of that negative number, you move to step 4. You recomplement the result. Flip the bits, add 1 again, and boom, you're looking at binary 15, confirming our answer is -15. Pretty clever, right?
Okay, Section 3, BCD Addition Correction, the essential +6 rule for invalid digits. Now, binary-coded decimal, or BCD, is super strict. It only represents decimal digits 0 through 9 as 4-bit binary groups. So what happens if we try to add BCD 7 and BCD 8? The raw binary addition gives us 1111, which is 15, but 111 is completely invalid in BCD logic. Whenever your sum exceeds 9, or if it generates a carry, you absolutely must apply a correction factor. You have to add 6, which is 0110 in binary, to your invalid result. When you add that 6, it forces a carryover to the next nibble, leaving you with a 1 in the tens place and a 5 in the ones place. And there you go, validating our perfect BCD 15.
Let's keep this momentum going into Section 4, Hamming code error correction, the encode, detect, and correct cycle.
To construct a truly bulletproof transmission, we need to lay out 7-bit positions. Notice exactly where the parity bits live here. P1, P2, and P4 are placed exclusively at the power of 2 positions. Our actual data bits just slot into the remaining spaces at 3, 5, 6, and 7. By checking for even parity across specific alternating groups, for instance, P1 checks positions 1, 3, 5, and 7, we calculate our parity values. And just like that, our final transmitted code becomes 011011. But what if there's a glitch? Let's say some random interference flips position 6 during transmission, so the receiver gets 01100011. How in the world do we find the error? Simple, we just rerun our parity checks. C1 checks its group, sees an even count, so it outputs a 0, meaning no error there. But C2 and C4 both detect odd counts where they were expecting even, so they output 1s. Now here's the trick. Read those error outputs in reverse order. C4, C2, C1 gives us 1, 1, 0. And what is 1, 1, 0 in binary? It's the number 6. The math brilliantly calculates the exact binary location of the error, allowing us to confidently flip bit 6 right back to a 1. Data saved.
Finally, we've reached Section 5, Universal Gates and K-maps, NAND derivation, and don't care conditions.
Translating all this data into actual physical circuitry brings us to a classic hurdle, proving why NAND is considered a universal gate. If you want to build an OR gate out of just NAND gates, you can't just guess your way there. You have to lean on De Morgan's theorem. By applying De Morgan's, we know that A or B is functionally identical to taking the inverted A and the inverted B and passing them both through a NAND gate. This perfectly proves that you don't actually need dedicated OR chips or AND chips. With enough NAND gates and a little Boolean algebra, you can build literally any computer logic circuit in existence. No way, right? It's that powerful.
Now, when we're plotting our grid for a 4-variable K-map, we place our 1s exactly at our min-term positions. But the absolute secret weapon here is our don't cares, which are marked with an X at positions 5 and 9. These X's act as wildcards. Instead of settling for small, inefficient groups of 1s, we can loop those X's in, which allows us to form much larger power of 2 blocks spanning across the map.
By strategically looping those don't cares with our 1s, we aggressively minimize the logic gates needed. A massive block of 4 gives us AD. Another block gives us CD, and extending it to our don't cares gives us BD. We've taken a massive, messy Boolean function and beautifully simplified it into this final expression. And remember, fewer gates mean cheaper, faster, and way more efficient hardware. All right, let's lock in what we've conquered today. Remember your reading directions for base conversions. Bottom up for integers, top down for fractions. When doing 2's complement subtraction, always watch out for that missing carry. It means you've got a negative result. Don't forget your +6 correction rule for BCD arithmetic. Lean on your C4, C2, C1 parity groups to pinpoint those Hamming code errors. And always, always exploit your don't cares and K-maps to maximize your groupings and simplify your logic.
So, you've officially unlocked the foundational mechanics of Unit 1. But static logic? That's really just the beginning. What happens when we need a circuit to actually remember its previous state? That is the real challenge of complex sequential design. So take a breath, solidify these methods by hand, and get ready, because next time we're bringing memory into the machine. Will your circuits be able to keep up? Keep learning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.